Rolex is arguably the most prestigious watch brand in the world, and it boasts a formidable selection of legendary men amongst its wearers. From sportsmen to film stars to political figures, many of the world's most famous men have been Rolex admirers. And when you think about it, it makes sense that these men chose a watch to match their status. What's really interesting, however, is to see the collections that they chose their watches from. Each of Rolex's collections tells a different story, and seeing which one each of these men matched themselves with is a revelation. But before you watch the video, be sure to hit the bell button for more related material and subscribe to the channel. Let's get back to the video. Let's jump in and find out more about these 10 legends and the watches that they chose to express their identity. Barack Obama, Rolex Cellini. During his presidency, Barack Obama kept it real with a fairly humble George Gray for most of his public appearances. A man of the people, it's not hard to see why Obama might have exercised restraint in his watch choices while in office. Since the end of his term, however, Obama has indulged just a little, and his choice of watch makes a lot of sense. Obama went for the Rolex Cellini reference 50,509. With its classic dress watch aesthetic and subtle design, the Cellini is the perfect sort of Rolex for a refined man like Obama. With its leather bracelet and pure, uncluttered dial, this watch means you can have the feeling of wearing a Rolex without your wrists screaming Rolex at everyone who sees it. Obama's Cellini even made it into his official portrait, which now hangs at Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. Warren Buffett, Rolex Day Date. Widely recognized as the most successful investor in the world today, Warren Buffett is the third richest man on the planet. Buffett is revered for his financial savvy, which has seen his holdings company Berkshire Hathaway acquire some of America's biggest brands. Focusing on commodities and diversification, many investors have attempted to imitate his methodology, hanging on Buffett's every word. In his personal spending, however, Buffett has been remarkably restrained. Living in the same house for most of his life, the business magnate has allowed himself relatively few extravagances. Apart from his Rolex, Buffett's Rolex of choice is an 18-karat yellow gold Rolex Day Date. Known as the President Watch, the Day Date is unmistakable, especially in yellow gold. The ultimate symbol of prestige, it's not an easy watch to pull off. For Buffett, however, it's the perfect match. John F. Kennedy, Rolex Day Date. John F. Kennedy's Rolex tells a bit of a different story, because although JFK owned a Rolex, due to the circumstances surrounding the watch, he apparently never wore it. Everyone is familiar with Marilyn Monroe's famous Happy Birthday, Mr. President performance, which she sang to President Kennedy ahead of his 45th birthday in 1962. Fewer people know that Monroe also presented the president with a Rolex Day Date for his birthday, inscribed with the words, "Jack, with love as always from Marilyn." Publicly, Kennedy joked about the sweet, wholesome performance that Monroe delivered that day. The watch, however, was hidden away. Apparently, the gift and the conditions under which it was presented weren't fitting for the president. The notorious watch didn't resurface until 2005 when it appeared at auction, selling for a relatively modest $120,000. Paul Newman, Rolex Daytona. Film star, director, and race car enthusiast Paul Newman is a figure whose name will forever be linked with Rolex and the iconic Cosmograph Daytona that he wore. First released in 1963, the Cosmograph Daytona, named after the Florida racecourse, was designed to meet the needs of professional racing drivers. Aside from his film career, Paul Newman was an avid racing driver, and his Cosmograph Daytona was permanently attached to his wrist. Paul Newman's personal Daytona is the most expensive watch to have ever been sold, fetching $17.8 million at Phillips Auction House in late 2017. Newman is said to have worn the watch every day for 15 years, before he gave it to his daughter's boyfriend at the time in 1984. Winston Churchill, Rolex Date Just. Few individuals can be said to have had as much impact upon world history as Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister who oversaw the eventual victory of the Allies in the Second World War. It was for this reason that Hans Wilsdorf in 1947 selected Churchill as the man who should own the 100,000th certified chronometer produced by Rolex. The watch that Wilsdorf gifted to Churchill was an 18-karat gold Rolex Oyster Perpetual Date Just with a fluted bezel, a white dial, and a Jubilee bracelet. Churchill warmly accepted the gift from Wilsdorf, stating in his letter of acceptance, "I look forward very much to receiving this wristwatch, and I trust you will realize how much I appreciate this very kind gesture of goodwill." Steve McQueen, Rolex Submariner. Steve McQueen was known for wearing a few different watches, and the Rolex Explorer 2 reference 1655 has been referred to as the Steve McQueen Explorer. But the King of Cool actually has a stronger connection with the Rolex Submariner. One particular Rolex submariner connected with Steve McQueen has attracted special attention in recent times. The Rolex that Steve McQueen wore most was the Submariner Reference 5512, an iconic Rolex for one of the most iconic American film stars of all time, Martin Luther King. Rolex date just. The Rev. Dr. Martin Luther King will forever be known as one of the most prominent individuals in the U.S. civil rights movement. Until his untimely death in 1968, Dr. King furthered the civil rights movement through nonviolent resistance. No one knows the story behind the watch that Dr. King wore, but we do know that he wore a Rolex just on a Jubilee bracelet can be glimpsed on his wrist. It's a watch fit for a king. Roger Federer. Rolex date just. Swiss tennis champion Roger Federer is one of the greatest tennis players of all time. Holding 20 Grand Slam titles and more Wimbledon titles than anyone else, Federer has made history more than once. In 2009, Federer broke Pete Sampras' all-time Grand Slam record. When he lifted the trophy, Federer wore his Rolex Oyster Perpetual date just 2 on his wrist. He claims that the watch reminds him of that incredible moment in the presence of Sampras, Bjorn Borg, John McEnroe, and Rod Laver, who were all there that day to share the moment with him. Tiger Woods. Rolex Sea Dweller. Tiger Woods is one of the most accomplished and most renowned golfers in the world. Woods stunned the golfing world after winning the U.S. Masters at Augusta in 1997 with a record score at the tender age of 21. He went on to be the first in the world to win the 4 majors in a row, a claim that no other golfer in the world can make. Woods is a lifelong lover of the ocean, and when he's not playing golf, he can often be found in the water. Growing up in Southern California, Woods is a surfer and an avid diver. The Rolex Sea Dweller Deep Sea is, therefore, the perfect match for him. Rolex's most advanced diving watch, the Sea Dweller Deep Sea, can withstand even the toughest underwater conditions. Jay-Z. Rolex Daytona. Hip-hop artist and serial entrepreneur Jay-Z is a cultural icon who has found massive success not only in music, but in diverse business ventures over the last 2 decades. He has won 22 Grammy Awards, more than any other rapper, and holds the record for most number ones from a solo artist on the Billboard 200. His musical success, along with the growth of his business ventures, including 40/40th Club, Rocawear, and Tidal, has funded his rather expensive taste in watches. His extensive collection includes numerous Rolexes, including Rolex Cosmograph Daytona Reference 116,500. That's it for today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. See you in the next video. Goodbye and have a luxurious day.